El país de Brasil, que cuenta con una población de más de 193 millones de habitantes, es considerada como la séptima economía emergente del mundo y que muy pronto logrará pasar al quinto lugar. En su gira por Brasil, el primer ministro Harper también visitó la ciudad de Sao Paulo, una de las grandes ciudades de Brasil y que cuenta con una población de 17 millones de habitantes. Amigos de Hispanegro, nos encontramos en este momento en la ciudad de Sao Paulo, una de las ciudades que está recorriendo el primer ministro para hacer acuerdos de negocios con muchos de los empresarios que viven aquí en Brasil. Actualmente Canadá y Brasil tienen un diálogo estratégico como socios y que servirá para que los ministerios de Asuntos Extranjeros puedan discutir y analizar tendencias regionales y globales, y también cómo el desarrollo puede afectar a ambos países. Esto también servirá como un medio para identificar intereses comunes y de acercamiento.
Multilateral, o Canadá e o Brasil estão cada vez mais trabalhando juntos no âmbito da Organização dos Estados Americanos, das Nações Unidas, do G20 e da Organização Mundial do Comércio. Nosso governo reconhece a importância do Brasil enquanto ator econômico de peso e como parceiro estratégico do Canadá do ponto de vista mundial, regional e bilateral. Com a liderança do primeiro-ministro Harper, estou confiante de que as nossas relações continuarão a ser caracterizadas por crescimento e prosperidade. Ladies and gentlemen, senhoras e senhores, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Canada's Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Stephen Harper.
Introduction. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings also to members of the Canadian delegation, as well as to members of the Canada-Brazil Chamber of Commerce here in Sao Paulo. The opportunity to speak to such a high-powered audience as yourselves is a welcome privilege, and we thank all of you for joining us today. It is, of course, great to be here in Sao Paulo and great to be in Brazil. I would like to begin by once again thanking President Rousseff and the government of Brazil for the warm welcome that we all received. As you know, we have only been here in Sao Paulo for a matter of hours, but it is very easy to see why this has been named a world city. The soaring buildings, the bustling construction and activity, the beauty of the surrounding region all evoke a very powerful energy and enthusiasm. It is really what we see here is the coming together of peoples and cultures to make a whole that is vastly more than the sum of its parts. Now, of course, this is very familiar to us as Canadians, and that is principally what I want to talk to you about today, the similarities and opportunities between our two great countries. For although we are separated by great distances and sometimes by great temperatures, in many ways, Canada and Brazil complement each other. Already there is much that we are doing together, but I believe there is much more that we can do in the future, in trade, in energy, in education, in infrastructure, and in a larger sense, much of what I have just said of the impressiveness of Sao Paulo is the story of today's Brazil. And what a story that really is, ladies and gentlemen. For when the world looks at Brazil, what does it see? It sees a new industrial power forging ahead with information communications technologies, justly proud of its aircraft industry, well on the way to becoming a spacefaring nation with its own orbital launch capacity. It sees a clean energy giant with particularly well-developed hydro and ethanol production. It also sees a massive new supplier of oil and a giant to feed the hungry. Yet a country at the same time whose deep commitment to the environment has led it to make great efforts to preserve the Amazon rainforest. And the world sees remarkable growth as Brazil prepares to build and revitalize the airports, ports, railways, and other infrastructure that it needs as a great power. Finally, we do all see this. We see a powerful democracy at the hub of a great continent, one that rebukes the world's doubters by showing that deep in the heart of all peoples, even those once confined by dictatorship, the passion for freedom never dies. And when it boils over, as it did here in Brazil, the world is enriched by a neighbor dedicated to peace, a people with the capacity to prosper, a a government eager to promote human rights. In other words, a glorious nation confident in its strength. Let me say something about this, by the way. Both our countries have strong economic fundamentals, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say something about what's been going on in the markets. And I know we're all intensely following this, the great volatility. But I want to repeat what I said earlier. As much as I know this is important, these market signals are important, we as policymakers should not ignore them. But I do think way too much emphasis is placed on these day-to-day movements in the stock markets. When there are paper gains, people are euphoric about them. When there are paper losses, pessimism spreads everywhere. The fact of the matter is that our two countries have great economic fundamentals. We have great endowments of resources, material, technological, and human. We have great opportunities and needs of our peoples. And what we need to be doing as policymakers in government and also as policymakers in business is really focusing less on these day-to-day market movements and more on the great opportunities that are sitting in front of us if we focus on the medium and long term and make sure we build wealth, trade, and job creation for our people.
Canada, under our Prime Minister's leadership, has become actively involved in engaging in the Americans in recent years. This is not a new trend for us. And at Scotiabank, my bank, is one that we not only support, but we're working very hard to make it happen. And we continue to do so. So although we've been in Brazil for 40 years, we've been doing great trade finance. We run a duty on an annual basis, anywhere from $1.5 to $2 billion in trade finance. We had the opportunity to buy one of the German banks, the Western Bank. We're now just finalizing the approvals, which I met with the president of the central bank here, which are going to be coming very, very quickly. And we will double that amount, but not only just in trade finance, but to Brazilian companies. Brazilian companies here in Brazil, and the Brazilian companies who want to go elsewhere in the world, and we're in 50 countries to help them do that. So we have this commitment in my own organization to make it happen, and I think that the business community, well, I now know after my meetings yesterday, have that same commitment. So we as CEOs of these companies intend to take the challenge, the priority that our leaders have given us, and to make this thing happen. We're going to focus on some very simple, some very straightforward ways that we can improve business, investment, and trade between our two countries, and perhaps together amongst the many, many countries that we all should be looking to do business with. So this is important for all of us. It's important for our country's future. It's important for our citizens and the people of our countries. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope we can count on a lot of you for help too. So thank you very much.
La próxima semana continuaremos con la visita oficial del gobierno canadiense a Colombia, encabezada por el primer ministro Stephen Harper y donde se reunió con su homólogo, el excelentísimo Juan Manuel Santos, quien es el presidente de este país. Ya regresamos después de estos cortes comerciales.